All right, hello there, Kent Business College apprentices, and a very warm welcome. Look, I know this month's assignment might seem a bit like staring up at a mountain, but I promise you, it's not. This is your gold ticket. It is the absolute key to smashing your endpoint assessment, and we're going to break it all down step by step.
Okay, let's get right to the heart of it. This quote you see here, that's the entire point. It's the North Star for this whole assignment. The assessors for your EPA, they're not looking for someone who can just, plug data into some software. They are looking for a proper project controls professional who thinks strategically, who gets the why behind the what. And this assignment, well, this is your stage to prove you're exactly that.
So, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll talk about why this is your EPA gold ticket. Then, we'll break down exactly what you need to deliver. We'll tackle that big decision about your project lifecycle, then get into the real nuts and bolts of your scheduling pack and the more advanced stuff. And finally, we'll wrap up with how to nail the submission itself. See, there's a plan, no need to panic.
Right then, first up, your EPA Gold ticket. Let's be really clear about this. This isn't just another piece of coursework to get ticked off. No. This single assignment is your absolute best chance to build a huge, solid chunk of your portfolio evidence for that final endpoint assessment.
Just have a look at this list. Think of this assignment as a brilliant way to hit all these points in one go. You get to show evidence for everything the assessors are looking for. From the big picture stuff like lifecycle governance, right down to the nitty-gritty of change control and risk forecasting. It's not about ticking these boxes one by one, it's about showing how you pull it all together, how you exercise real professional judgment.
Okay, let's move on to the assignment itself. Now, when you first look at the whole brief, it can feel a bit overwhelming, I get it. But honestly, it's not. It's just a series of logical steps. It's like making a proper cup of tea, isn't it? You get the mug, the tea bag, the hot water. You follow the process. So let's look at the process for this.
Here they are, your 6 core deliverables. Think of them as 6 chapters in your project story. You start with the why, your life cycle rationale. Then you move to the how, your approach statement and a little snippet of a schedule. After that, you prove you can protect it with baseline and change control. Then you look into the crystal ball with risk and forecasting. And finally, you tie it all together with an integrated narrative. And please don't worry, we are going to cover all of these topics in much more detail in the coming weeks.
So the first big decision, the place you have to start, is choosing your project lifecycle. And honestly, this is probably the most important decision you'll make in this entire assignment. Everything else, literally everything, will flow from this one choice. It sets the whole tone.
So you have to ask yourself, what is my project's DNA? Is it predictive? Is it agile? Or is it a bit of both, a hybrid? Think of it like this. A predictive plan is like booking a train ticket from London King's Cross to Edinburgh. You've got a fixed timetable, set stops, and you manage everything against that plan. An agile plan? Well, that's more like a London cabbie in rush hour traffic. He knows where he's going, but he's constantly adapting the route based on what's happening on the road.
And this table here really breaks down those differences. In a predictive world, right, the scope is locked in early on. You have a formal approved schedule as your baseline, and any change has to go through a really strict formal process. In an agile world, though, requirements emerge as you go. Your baseline is more about what you've committed to for the next short sprint, and change is just part of the game. You manage it by constantly refining the backlog. Your choice here dictates everything that follows.
Right, let's get our hands dirty. Let's get into the technical heart of your submission, building that proper professional scheduling pack. This is where we move from the theory to the practice, and you get to really show off your craft.
Your schedule approach statement. This is where you prove you're not just a button pusher. The assessors at NSA, they want to see your thinking, your justification. Why did you choose critical path method instead of time boxing? Why did you pick that particular software tool? You have to explain your logic, declare your assumptions. This is you, the professional, explaining your strategy.
Now for the actual evidence, that little snippet of your schedule. What good looks like here is completely different depending on the life cycle you chose. For a predictive project, the assessor wants to see the classics, a clear work breakdown structure, proper logic links, and the critical path, all nicely highlighted. For an agile project, they're looking for a release plan, a few sprint plans, and proof that you're actively working on and refining your backlog. 2 different worlds, 2 completely different sets of evidence.
And this is where you demonstrate true level 6 maturity, governance. It's one thing to build a schedule, but it's another thing entirely to protect it. Think of it like the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace.
Nothing gets through those gates without going through the proper formal process. You need to show that process, your baseline approval flow, your change request log, and a real example of how you assess the impact of a change. This is what proves you are in control.
Okay, let's move on. Let's see how we can take this up a gear. If the last section was about your professional craft, this one is all about your strategic thinking. This is the stuff that separates a good submission from a truly distinction level 1.
You see, it's easy to just give a single finish state, but you and I both know projects rarely go exactly to plan, don't they? A true professional accounts for that uncertainty. So instead of one date, you can provide what's called a P80 forecast. All that means is you're saying, based on all the risks we know about, we are 80% confident we can finish by this date. That's not being pessimistic. That's giving a realistic, risk-adjusted forecast. It's professionalism.
And now we come to what is arguably the most important section for your EPA, the integrated controls narrative. Here's the key. Your schedule does not live in a vacuum. It's the engine that drives everything else. So how does it link to the project's cash flow? How are the big contract milestones from procurement actually reflected in the schedule's logic? How do health and safety constraints impact your timeline? This narrative proves you can see the whole picture.
So you've done all the hard work, you've built this fantastic set of evidence. The final step is just to make sure you present it in a way that gets you the top marks you absolutely deserve. Let's talk about how to really nail that submission.
Just a quick practical note before we go any further. This is a big piece of work, and you should absolutely be logging your time for it. You can evidence anywhere between 10 and 20 of your required off-the-job training hours this month just by completing this assignment properly. So please, don't forget to log it.
Now here is a top tip if you're aiming for a distinction. At the end of each section of your submission, add a KSB mapping statement just like this one. You are explicitly telling the assessor which knowledge, skills, and behaviors your evidence demonstrates. You're basically doing their job for them, which makes it incredibly easy for them to award you the marks. It really is the hallmark of a top-tier professional submission.
Okay, let's get you ready for that professional discussion, the Viva. They're going to ask you questions based on your portfolio. Here's a very likely one. Now, they're not testing if you've memorized the definition. They are testing your judgment. Do you understand the trade-offs? Can you justify your decisions, even when the circumstances change?
Here's another classic. With this, they're probing your understanding of discipline and the consequences of weak control. Your answer needs to go way beyond just, oh, the plan gets messy. You need to talk about the real impact on cost, on stakeholder confidence, on your ability to even measure performance, on contracts. Show them you get the full, serious implications. And finally, a question like this is testing your people skills, your stakeholder management and communication. How do you take something complex, like a P80 forecast, and turn it into a clear, simple message for a senior director? They want to see that you can not only do the analysis, but also communicate what it means to actually influence decisions.
So, let's finish on this thought. This assignment, it is so much more than just paperwork or a box-ticking exercise. It's your professional calling card. It is your chance to stand up and prove that you're not just a scheduler. You are a strategic project controls professional, ready to make a real impact. Go on, go out there and create something you're truly proud of. You've absolutely got this.